What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing? Trying to find something interesting to listen to.
God is not going to forget you. Never give up on God, because God will not give up on you. And if you were me, man, wouldn't you be excited?
Have you ever wondered why you keep returning to old habits, even after you swore you would change? It is not because you lack willpower. It is because, inside you, there are still parts that have not been seen, not acknowledged, that silently steer your choices from behind. We often think discipline means forcing yourself to work harder, do more, and act tougher. But in Jung's spirit, real discipline is not on the surface of behavior. It lies in whether you dare to face your whole self. When you integrate the shadow, when you stop running from the dark parts, when you stop living for approval, a quiet shift happens. You become steadier, less reactive, less easily provoked, harder to manipulate. The fear people feel does not come from aggression. It comes from inner unity, from someone who has walked through themselves and returned to a center that is not easily shaken. In this video, we will explore how to become so disciplined that your calm makes others cautious. If you are ready to step into that journey, stay, because to become truly strong, you may have to let go of your old version. Number 1. The discipline of silence. Stop performing. Start observing. The discipline of silence is not about stopping your speech. It is about stopping your display. Stop telling the world about plans you have not even started. Stop announcing that you are about to change. Stop seeking approving eyes for a version of you that you have not even become. Most modern people live in a very subtle loop. They share their goals, receive praise, and the brain mistakenly assumes the achievement has already happened. The feeling of completion arrives before the action. The pressure disappears, the drive dissolves, and then they wonder why they always quit halfway. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakes." When you keep staring outward, you easily live inside a collective dream. A dream of being admired, a dream of a disciplined version that others can see, a dream of progress measured by looks and compliments. But the moment you turn inward, something changes. You stop chasing an image. You begin facing the truth. Silence is that pivot. No more hunting for immediate feedback. No more rushing to share every plan. You pull your energy off the stage and bring it back to your inner world. There is no audience there, no applause.
Right.
Only you,
Only
your real
you.
motives, and the level of honesty you are willing to give yourself.
None.
I have a friend named Sarah. She always starts everything with intensity. A new workout plan, a creative project, a better version phase. She tells everyone, posts constant updates, and receives so much encouragement. In the first few days, She truly does great. But gradually, the excitement drops. No more posts. No more updates. Everything quietly disappears. When I asked her why, she said something very real. Every time she got praised early, she felt as if she had already achieved something. Recognition replaced real progress. She did not lack ability. She lacked silence. Silence is like the darkness a seed needs to sprout. If you dig up the seed every day to see whether it has grown, you will kill it. Your goals are the same. They need a stretch of time where no one sees, no one comments, no one judges. When you keep exposing your process, you pull it out of its natural nurturing environment. The discipline of silence is trusting that what you do has value even when nobody knows. From a Jungian lens, the problem sits in the persona, the social mask you wear to adapt. The persona is not bad. It is necessary for belonging. But when you completely identify with it, you begin living for other people's reactions. You act in ways that will be accepted. You share in ways that will be praised. And when approval fades, you feel your value fading with it. Silence is the first step of separating yourself from that dependence. When you no longer need to announce every step forward, you begin to ask, what am I truly doing this for? Silence also reveals urges you did not notice before. When you do not post about your workout, do you still work out? When nobody knows you are learning a new skill, do you still persist? When nobody praises you as hard-working, do you still keep the pace?
Kinda.
Those questions are uncomfortable
I've been
because
fucking
they
lazy
strip
lately.
your real motives
I've
bare.
been so lazy
And
lately.
sometimes you realize you did many things only to be seen. That realization can make you feel ashamed.
Sometimes.
But shame, once made conscious, is the beginning of maturity. Silence not only changes you, it changes how others feel about you. When you stop explaining every plan,
It is a
a
lot
gap
quieter
appears.
when my kid ain't.
Humans
My
cannot
boy,
stand
baby
gaps.
boy ain't
They
around.
begin to speculate. They wonder what you are doing. Why do you no longer overshare? Why do you no longer need their response? Silence creates a depth that words cannot create. Not because you are trying to seem mysterious, but because you are no longer living to impress.
Word.
Imagine two people walking into a room. One
really
talks
understand
non-stop about his project, his ambition, and what he is about to achieve. The other listens more than he speaks, answers briefly, and does not show off. After an hour, who leaves the stronger impression? Often, the second person. Because their silence contains something unrevealed. People tend to feel both curious and cautious around what they cannot fully read. But do not misunderstand. The discipline of silence is not a social manipulation strategy.
Yeah, Tony.
It is not a trick to seem cooler. It is a tool to see yourself more clearly. When you stop talking about your goals, you hear the voices inside more clearly.
Dad.
You hear the impatience to prove yourself. You hear the fear of being forgotten. You hear the insecurity when nobody pays attention.
Yeah,
And
Christopher.
when you hear them, you have a choice. You can act on them, or you can watch them pass without reacting. That is discipline. There is a subtle paradox. The more you talk about change, the less you change. The more you need others to know you are improving, the more you depend on them to keep going. Silence cuts that cycle. It is like unplugging from an external power source and learning to generate energy from within. At first, you will feel empty. You will wonder whether you are disappearing from attention. But in truth, you are simply stepping off the stage to build the foundation. Sarah tried changing one small thing. She stopped announcing her plans. She stopped posting progress updates. she did everything in silence. The first month was hard.
Yeah.
She felt like she did not exist if nobody knew she was trying. But then something strange happened. She began training more consistently. She completed more work. And when others noticed the change, she did not need to explain anything. The difference was obvious in the way she walked, in her eyes, in her calm. No noise.
She thought she was
No
better
need to
than everybody
prove.
else because she
The
figured
lesson
it
here is
out.
very clear. Do not waste your energy
Don't
announcing
touch
you
Sarah.
will change. Use that energy to actually change. Do not explain every step you take. Let results speak when they are ripe enough. When you discipline silence, you begin building an inner strength that does not depend on other people's eyes. And from that foundation,
In English,
we
it
move
means
to the next
it
part,
doesn't matter
where
who's
silence is not only
whatever.
outward,
It's nobody's fucking
but
business
inward,
but your own business.
where you must face the shadow you
Wherever
have
you need to
avoided
go,
for so
do it.
long.
Stop letting people's
Number
vibes
2,
fucking annoy you.
facing and integrating the shadow.
Or
And
shadow,
once you have
whatever you want
learned
to
how
call it.
to be
I call it
silent before
vibe.
the world, no longer
Shadow
displaying
vibes.
every intention outward, another door opens. That door does not lead to a stage. It leads down into the basement, the place where you store what you do not want anyone to know, what you do not even want yourself to know. This is when you step into the hardest form of discipline, facing and integrating the shadow. The shadow is not something mystical. It is close. It shows up the moment you feel uneasy when someone succeeds faster than you. In the second, you overreact to a small piece of feedback. In the secret satisfaction, when someone who once looked down
runs in
on
my
you
family.
fails. That does not mean you are bad. It means there is a part of you you do not want to claim as yours. We often build an image of ourselves. I am kind, I am rational, I am petty.
Kind, I am rational.
That image helps you live in
I
society.
want the monster to come out where I can
But
walk
when
up
you
and
completely
headbutt somebody
identify with it,
out of fucking nowhere
anything
just
that does
fucking
not
cuz.
match
Just like
gets
other
pushed
people
into
do
the
fucking me for
basement.
no fucking reason.
You do not want to see jealousy. You do not want to touch anger. You do not want to admit the need to be acknowledged.
Whatever.
And those very things become the shadow.
Which
Carl
I
Jung
was
wrote,
told never did let out.
one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness
It's okay for other
conscious.
people to be mean to me.
You do not mature by imagining
Or
yourself
whatever.
full of light.
But when I stand
You
up for
mature
myself,
when you dare
oh,
to
I'm
bring
in the wrong.
darkness into awareness. What you do not make conscious will run you from behind. It decides how you react, how you choose, how you sabotage what you are building. Look at the literature. In The Picture of Dorian Gray, Dorian keeps his perfect appearance, while the portrait carries every trace of guilt and decay. The portrait is the shadow. It holds everything Dorian refuses to face. He continues living in society with a youthful face, but in the locked room, the portrait grows more and more warped. The more he denies it, the more horrifying it becomes. In the end, he is destroyed by the very thing he fled. That story is not simply a moral lecture. It is a deep metaphor. What you will not face accumulates and distorts. Integrating the shadow does not mean accepting every negative behavior you have. It is not an excuse for selfishness or cruelty. It is an act of honesty. When you admit you can be jealous, you no longer have to pretend you are above it. When you admit you want recognition, you no longer have to hide ambition behind a mask of humility. That honesty makes you lighter. Imagine trying to hold a ball underwater. The harder you press, the more it wants to spring up.
Unless it's the bowling
The
ball.
shadow is the same. When you suppress it, pressure builds. And one day, it bursts out in an argument, a bad decision, or a moment of self-sabotage. Integration means you stop trying to keep that ball underwater. You let it rise, see it clearly, and learn to live with it without letting it control you.
That's
From a
all I've been
psychological
told.
perspective,
Live with it.
the shadow also holds energies that were misunderstood. Some people were taught that anger is bad, so they suppress every trace of it.
Isn't
But
it?
anger is also a signal that your boundaries are being violated. If you do not recognize it, you will either explode or let others override you. When you integrate it, you learn to say no without guilt. You use emotional energy to protect yourself instead of hurting others. Similarly, ambition is often seen as selfish. Many people push ambition into the basement because they fear judgment. But ambition is also a force of growth. When denied, it turns into jealousy and quiet comparison. When made conscious, it becomes a clear direction. You no longer compete in secret. You know what you want, and you move straight toward it. What makes the shadow dangerous is not its nature, but its unconsciousness. When you do not know, you crave recognition. You will chase it through subtle means. When you do not know, you fear failure, and you will procrastinate to avoid facing it. When you do not know you are prideful, you will treat every suggestion as an attack. The unconscious turns you into a puppet of yourself.
Right?
But when you begin to
I
recognize
totally
it,
get that.
a pause appears. You see yourself feeling jealous, and you do not immediately act on it. You notice anger, and you choose to respond instead
Anger,
of
yes.
react.
Jealousy, no.
That pause is deep discipline. Not forcing yourself to become better, but becoming aware enough to see what is happening inside. A different kind of confidence appears when you integrate the shadow. It is not confidence because you think you are perfect. It is steadiness because you know you are not. When someone points out your weakness,
Right?
you do not collapse.
Thank you.
You can say, yes, I have that part too.
I have
When
that
someone
issue.
tries to provoke you,
Anger.
you are not easily pulled in because you are used to observing your emotions. What you need to do is not complicated. When a strong emotion arises, do not rush to find the cause outside. Ask what you just got touched. Write down repeating patterns in relationships. Identify the feelings you usually avoid. You do not have to change
All of them.
immediately. You only need to see. That seeing alone is a shift. When you are disciplined enough to go down into the basement without turning away, you begin to become whole. You stop splitting yourself into good and bad. You understand you are a complex totality. And from that wholeness, a quiet strength appears. The strength of someone who has seen their own darkness, so they no longer fear the darkness in others. If you are ready to keep going, leave a sentence. I face my shadow. Because the moment you dare to say that, you stop running.
You won't do
And
it.
when you stop running from yourself, no one can easily control you anymore. Number 3. Solitude as a rite of maturity.
3's a good number.
After you begin recognizing the darker parts within, a gap appears. You are no longer busy proving anything to the world. You are also no longer constantly fighting yourself. But in its place comes a strange
There's
feeling.
nothing wrong with solitude. Everybody thinks there is.
Not loneliness from lacking people around you, but solitude because you no longer rely on the crowd to tell you who you are. Most people fear being alone, not because they hate quiet, but because in quiet, they hear more clearly what they have been avoiding. When there is no noise, no social media, no conversation filling time, you start facing yourself directly. And that is why many people unconsciously do everything they can to stay busy. Busy, so they do not have to think.
Yeah.
Busy,
That used
so
to
they
be
do
me
not
back
have
in
to
the day.
feel. Busy, so they do
Till I
not have
figure
to
out a
ask
lot of
hard
crazy
questions.
shit was happening.
Carl Jung said, Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you.
Yep.
When you have lived by other people's expectations for too long,
This
you
guy.
can be in the middle of a crowd and still feel lost.
Word.
But when you return to your own nature, you can be alone without feeling lacking.
Lacking.
Because you are no longer betraying what you know is true. Someone who follows the channel once left a comment. I lost almost all my friends after deciding to change how I live. At first I thought I was failing, but gradually I realized I was just growing up. That is not rare. When you start changing from the inside, relationships built on your old version begin to shake. Not because you become better or worse, but because you no longer fit the image they were used to. Solitude at this stage is like leaving a noisy room and stepping into a quiet forest. At first it feels empty, no voices, no validation. But then you start hearing different sounds, your own footsteps, thoughts you have never listened to, an intuition that is small but real. Solitude is not punishment, it is space. Space to realize what you truly think, want, and believe.
Some people use it for punishment.
In Jung's philosophy, the process of individuation cannot unfold amid the constant noise of the collective. You need a certain distance from the crowd to distinguish the voice of society from your own voice. When you are always in an environment where everyone thinks the same, acts the same, and fears the same, it is hard to see what you are living for.
Right?
You easily confuse consensus with truth. Solitude creates that necessary distance. It is like stepping back a few paces to see the whole painting, instead of pressing your face against each detail. What is interesting is that when you no longer depend on other people's presence to feel okay, you become more stable in every relationship. You do not cling. You do not panic when someone leaves.
Right.
You do not try to please to avoid abandonment.
Definitely.
This steadiness does not come from not needing anyone.
Life experience.
It comes from learning to be with yourself without feeling hollow.
Years.
When you can sit with your own thoughts, you no longer fear silence in conversation. When you can face your own sadness, you no longer rush to find someone else to fill the gap. Imagine yourself as a tree. When you are young, you need a stake to stand upright. But if you depend on the stake too long, you will never grow roots deep enough. Solitude is the period when you remove the stake. At first, you wobble, but in that wobble, the roots begin to push deeper into the soil. When the roots are strong, you no longer fear the wind. Many people confuse solitude with isolation. Isolation is withdrawing out of fear.
What's wrong with that?
Mature solitude is being alone because you choose it. You can still connect, love, and collaborate.
If it's a choice.
But you do not lose yourself in the process. You do not need the crowd to confirm your value. You do not need constant attention to feel you exist. As you pass through this stage, you may find yourself speaking less, not because you are cold, but because you no longer feel the need to explain every thought. You can decline invitations that do not fit. You can spend an evening alone without feeling empty.
Like tonight.
Those small changes show you are learning to stand on your own.
Right.
Here is a hard truth.
What's that?
If you cannot be alone, you will always be easy to influence. A person who fears solitude will accept unhealthy relationships just to avoid emptiness. A person who fears silence will chase trends just to avoid being left behind. But when you can sit alone with your thoughts without panic, you become freer in your choices. Solitude is a rite of maturity because it forces you to face the core question: Who am I when nobody is looking? No titles, no roles, no applause. That question is not easy,
Yeah.
but the journey to answer it is
This
what
guy,
matures you.
I'm this guy right here.
The deeper meaning of this stage is not
What's
that you
up,
separate
everybody?
yourself
C.Smiley
from the
here.
world. It
Just
is that
doing
you
a
build
study.
a stable center
Fucking
within.
commercials.
When you have a center, you can step into the crowd without being swept away. You can love without losing yourself. You can succeed
Mental
without
health
trading your
notes.
soul.
Thank you for being here.
Solitude
Thank
is
you
not
for
a
showing
sign
up.
that you are going the
Don't
wrong
forget to
way.
hit that like button.
Sometimes it is a sign you are stepping onto your own path. And when you are strong enough to be alone without feeling deprived, you begin moving into another level of discipline, living true to your nature, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Number 4, letting go of the need to be liked.
Fuck
But
that.
maturity does not stop at enduring solitude. It begins to be tested when you stop doing everything to be liked. Solitude helps you build an inner center, but that center will be tested the moment you step back into the world. Because the world does not only want you to exist, it wants you to fit. It wants you to be pleasant, predictable, and easy to accept. And deep inside, you also want to be liked, to be agreed with, to be seen with warmth.
Agreed with, kinda.
That need is
just
human.
Understood.
But when it becomes the main driver
You know,
of your actions,
or something like
it
that.
quietly bends your nature.
Listen
From
to.
childhood, we learn that being liked
Heard.
equals safety. A child pleases parents to be protected. A
Not my
student
parent.
blends in to avoid exclusion.
My dad put
Our
us to
brains
work.
are wired to seek acceptance because, in our evolutionary past, being cast out of the tribe could mean death.
Could be.
Neuroscience research shows that the feeling of rejection activates the same brain regions related to physical pain. So when someone does not like you, your body truly feels hurt, not imagination, biology. But growing up
Fuck
means
biology,
you no longer live
man.
entirely by that
It's the
primitive
worst.
survival instinct. When you keep acting just to be liked, you are choosing safety over truth. You say what is pleasant instead of what is right. You laugh when it is not funny. You nod while inside you disagree. Each time, you trade away a small piece of yourself. And over time, you no longer know what your real opinion is. In Greek mythology, there is the story of Narcissus, who
Yeah, that
fell in
fucker
love
right
with
there.
his reflection in the
Right
water.
there, that fucker. We
But
talked
there
about
is
that
another
last
angle
year.
that is rarely mentioned.
What's that?
Narcissus did not love his real self.
Right?
He loved the reflected image, an image that is perfect, conflict-free, and never rejected. Many of us are also in love with our image in other people's eyes.
I was.
We are not truly living. We are trying to keep that image from cracking.
At one time.
And when someone does not like us, it is like a stone thrown into the water. The image distorts, and we panic. Letting go of the
Can't
need
see
to
up
be liked
close.
does not mean becoming cold or rude. It means you no longer let other people's approval decide your worth. You can be polite without being fake. You can be kind without losing your boundaries. You can say no without feeling like a bad person. It sounds simple, but it requires deep maturity.
Yeah, but watching the other
From
people
a
trip
Jungian
out after you say
perspective,
no,
when you over-identify
that's the
with the
fucking
persona,
thing.
the social mask,
Woo!
you lose contact with the self, your whole central core.
Just because they didn't
The
like the
persona
answer.
is made to adapt. But if you live entirely through it, you become a slave to other people's gaze.
Yep.
Jung warned, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The privilege of a lifetime is becoming your real self. But you cannot become yourself
Who am I?
if you are always adjusting to be liked. Imagine you are a compass. If your needle keeps turning toward other people's directions, you will never know your own true north.
I got a
You will
reflection right
change
here.
with
That's
each
why I
group,
was looking at my
each
reflection.
environment, each influential person. But when you let go of the need to be liked, the needle starts to settle. It no longer spins with every compliment or criticism. It points toward what you believe is right, even when that direction is unpopular. What is interesting is that when you stop trying to be liked, you become more respectable. Not everyone will like you, but the right people will trust you because they feel consistency. A person who lives to be liked often shifts easily. A person who lives by their values is clear. And clarity creates a sense of safety for others, even when they disagree with you. Letting go of the need to be liked also means accepting being misunderstood.
Every day.
You may be called cold when you are simply holding boundaries. You may be called selfish when you refuse what does not fit.
No, not that.
People may say you have changed.
All the time.
And you have.
Every
Not because
day.
you became distant, but you are no longer willing to shrink to fit other people's comfort.
See?
Psychological science shows that people with clear personal boundaries often have lower anxiety in relationships. When you stop trying to please everyone, you reduce the pressure of maintaining an image. You do not need to remember what you told whom to keep everyone satisfied. You only need to be consistent with your values. That consistency frees the energy that was wasted on impression management. Of course, letting go of the need to be liked is not an impulsive rebellion. It is not intentionally causing conflict to prove independence. It is calm when you say what you believe. It is confidence when you stay silent about what you do not agree with. It is the ability to endure discomfort when someone does not like you. The deeper meaning of this part is not that you become scary to others. It is that you stop fearing their gaze. When you do not fear being disliked, you are free to tell the truth. When you do not fear being excluded, you are free to live by your standards. And when you no longer need approval to feel worthy, you step into a very different kind of inner power, the power of consistency. If you have ever made yourself smaller to be accepted, if you have ever said yes when inside was no, if you have ever feared losing someone more than you feared losing yourself, share your story in the comments.
You don't want to hear
Because the journey of letting go of the need to be liked is not a lonely journey. It is a step of maturity that many people are quietly living through. Number 5. The discipline of individuation, becoming a version that cannot be manipulated. So if other people's eyes no longer define you, who will you be? When this question echoes, you have reached the final stretch of the journey. No longer living to prove, no longer living to resist, no longer living
Number
to
5.
please. What remains now is not image, but structure, not reaction, but center. This is the discipline of individuation. Carl Jung called it the process of becoming the self, when different parts of you no longer pull you in opposite directions. He wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Individuation is not trying to look better in other people's eyes. It is the process of daring to look down into your inner depths, where fear, jealousy, inferiority, and old reflexes live. When you have the courage to touch those parts, instead of avoiding them, you begin building a stable foundation. And when that foundation is strong, you are no longer easily shaken by praise, criticism, or pressure from the outside. Most people think they are free, but they are living in a reaction mechanism. One compliment can lift them into the clouds. One insult can crush them. One cold glance can make them doubt themselves. They believe they are choosing, but they are reflexing. And anyone who understands those buttons can control them. The discipline of individuation begins with something very small, a pause.
Pause.
Between stimulus and
Imagine
response,
wearing wigs
there is
like
a
that
brief
back in the
moment.
day all the fucking
Most
time.
people do not notice it.
Not weird
They
fucks.
react instantly. But when you begin to recognize that pause, you step into the realm of choice. And choice is freedom. Imagine you are a navigation system. If that system depends entirely on external signals, one interference, and you lose direction. But if the system has a stable central processor, it can filter noise, correct deviation, and stay on course.
What?
Individuation is building that processor. When the inner center is strong, you are no longer distorted by praise, criticism, or crowd pressure.
Right?
Another way to understand it is to think of the axle of a wheel. If the axle is off, the wheel shakes as it rolls. A small force can throw it off balance. But when the axle is centered, movement becomes smooth and steady. Individuation is realigning that axle, not to remove all external forces, but to stop being thrown off course by them. Before individuation, you live like a mirror reflecting the environment. In one place you speak one way, in another place you change. You are not trying to be fake, you are trying to adapt. But constant adaptation makes you lose direction. You no longer know what your real opinions are, and what is simply a reaction to be accepted. When you begin individuating, you do not stop adapting. You adapt from a fixed center. You can change your expression, but your core values do not change. You can learn from others without losing your identity. You no longer need to prove you are right in every argument. You also do not need to please everyone to feel safe. This shift is not loud. It happens quietly in how you respond. When someone criticizes you, you no longer instantly defend. When someone praises you, you no longer get so excited that you lose control.
Right.
You still feel everything, but you are no longer dragged by it. At a deeper level, individuation is reconciliation between parts of you that used to oppose each other. The strong part and the fragile part, the rational part and the emotional part, the
Don't know how to
ambitious
feel
part,
excited.
and the part that needs rest. When these parts stop pulling you in different directions, you save an enormous amount of energy. You are no longer exhausted from playing roles. You are no longer tense from maintaining an image. You simply are yourself, consistently. I once attended a meditation retreat where I met a middle-aged man named Nick. He was successful, used to controlling situations, used to making quick decisions. But he confessed that he was always driven by his reactions. In meetings, if someone asked a skeptical question, he immediately snapped back harshly. When praised, he became overly excited and made careless decisions. He thought he was strong, but in truth, he was being controlled by sensitive points inside. During the practice days, he began noticing what happened in his body whenever he was triggered. Heat rising, heartbeat quickening, the urge to prove himself. Instead of reacting immediately, he learned to breathe and wait a few seconds. One evening he told me, "I realized I do not have to react." It was not a grand statement, but it was the moment he stepped into self-possession. When you realize you can choose not to react, you step out of the unconscious manipulation.
You break your hand.
Individuation does not make you rigid. It makes
Because
you consciously
still, it's
flexible.
like reacting, but
You can
not at the
change
right
your
time.
mind when you realize you are wrong, but
So,
not because you fear rejection. You can hold your ground when opposed, but not because of pride. You are no longer torn by inner contradictions. And when you stop living in constant inner conflict, your energy is released. A person who has entered individuation carries a different presence. They do not need to overpower others. They do not need to prove dominance. But they radiate stability, like a rock beneath rushing water. The water still flows, but the rock is not swept away. The discipline of individuation is not a single act. It is a daily practice.
Dwayne Johnson.
Tomorrow morning, before you open your phone, sit still for a few minutes. Ask yourself, what value will I act from today? Throughout the day, whenever you feel triggered, pause for one breath. Identify the emotion, name it, then ask, do I want to react by habit, or do I want to choose by value? Those small moments, repeated again and again, build a steady axis.
Messed up my hand.
Becoming a version that cannot be manipulated does not mean controlling others.
Supposed to be wearing my
It means
brace.
you are no longer pulled around by invisible forces inside
Sleep
and
wrong.
outside.
I've been like messed up forever.
You stop living by reflex. You live by choice. And when you walk into a room with that unity, you do not need to say you are strong. Others will feel it. Not because you are frightening, but because you have completed the deepest journey, becoming yourself. As this journey closes, perhaps the most important thing you realize is not how to make others fear you. It is how to stop fearing yourself. When you are disciplined enough to look into the darkness, endure solitude, let go of the need to be liked, and live from your center, you are no longer easy to manipulate. You do not have to tense up to look strong. Your steadiness comes from within. Discipline in Carl Jung's spirit is not forcing yourself into an emotionless machine. It is the process of integration. When light and shadow stop fighting, you stop wasting energy on inner war. And when you are no longer at war with yourself, the outer world also struggles to shake you. Others may not understand you, but they will sense one thing clearly.
Yeah, but they'll try.
You are no longer easily pulled. The fear people feel does not come from aggression. It comes from unity, from the gaze of someone who has crossed the abyss of their own self and returned to a steady axis. You do not need to say much. You do not need to prove. Your presence is enough to make a difference. If this journey touched you, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring Jungian depth psychology and the path of individuation. Because when you truly begin to be disciplined with yourself, you not only change your life,
Thanks,
you
guys.
change how you exist in this world.
Thanks. Catch you next time.